Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Perfect Game High School Notebook. I'm Tyler Russo, and as always, I'm joined here by Colt Ollinger. Colt, you're coming off your road trip around the Deep South from last week. You want to tell me how it was?
Yeah, we started off in northern Mississippi and saw a really good Lewisburg team headlined by Brady Taggart, but really a solid lineup and real strong team they've got there at Lewisburg High School. From there we kind of bounced around trying to make some decisions on what the weather was going to do. Ended up back in central Mississippi on a couple teams that we'll touch on later here in the rankings, and then made it all the way down to the Gulf of Alabama and saw some really important area matchups down there. Some stuff that's kind of figuring out what's going to happen with the playoffs here in the coming weeks, but it sounds like you got a big trip going there in Florida this week. You want to touch on what you got going there?
Yeah, I'm down here in South Florida. Last night saw some traditionally strong programs in Palm Beach Gardens and American Heritage play. Tight game. A lot of talent on both of those teams. Moving on with the week, going to see a West Broward team that has a lot of upperclassmen that are really talented. Before I head over to Stoneman Douglas for the Calvary Christian Stoneman Douglas matchup that we're going to touch on a little bit. Really big top 10 matchup nationally. Then last day here, going to be able to go see Doral. A lot of talented players that we get to see on the travel circuit, a ton with them, and then going to finish up seeing Stoneman Douglas again against Westminster Christian team. That's got another good group of talented guys that we see on the summer ball circuit pretty regularly. Moving over to the rankings, Buford, they stay right up at the top. They finished up their regular season with a win over Grayson, so they're going to finish the regular season at 28-0. Colt, I think it's safe to say they're probably a clear favorite to win the 6A state title in Georgia.
Yeah, they run the table there at 28-0 for them, and obviously it's tough to beat them once. Can't imagine having to try and beat them twice in a 3-game set there with the way they got stuff set up there in Georgia. But likely the biggest matchup of the week comes from the two teams that we have chasing Buford and IMG and Tampa Jesuit, who are getting ready to square off on Wednesday night down there in Florida.
Yeah, that Jesuit team, they've been rolling all season. It'll be interesting to see who they roll out. IMG, probably going to roll out Jackson Ferris. They haven't been playing too much, but Jesuit had Dom Castellano go last week for them. Well, it'll be interesting to see if they get him on the mound or Alden Segui starts or maybe Wes Mendez. They've got a trio of really talented arms there that should be able to give that IMG lineup some problems. So moving on with the top 10, like I mentioned, Calvary and Stoneman Douglas sitting 8 and 9. It's a matchup I'm going to get to see. I'm really, really excited to see them play and see who the best team in South Florida is. But Madison Central made the big jump there in the top 10 up to number 7. They still haven't lost a game. Colt, you finally got to see them in person on your trip. You want to tell me how that team was and how the atmosphere was there?
Yeah, I got to see the Jaguars last Thursday night, and kind of as advertised. We've both been following along with their stuff on social media, and things that we can find online with them. But Ross Highfield, Tom Lee really had big games for him that night offensively. Highfield first at bat, just unloads on a ball for a home run, and then just misses one in his next at bat, coming up just short of the wall with a fly ball. Tom Lee playing a really good shortstop for him, consistent bat for him, driving in runs. And that night got to see Renard Grace on the mound. Kind of, battled for 6 innings, but, threw up 6 shutout innings, and they cruised to a 10-0 win that night. And then, got to bounce over and see Jackson Prep while I was over there as well. And, a real loaded team there at Jackson Prep as they continue to make their way through the rankings. Eli Birch and Jeffrey Ince, two guys who really stood out that night. Birch with a home run, and Ince really making things go for him there at the top of the lineup. And Mason Nichols kind of looks to be probably their ace on the mound, the Ole Miss commit, running the fastball up into the low 90s and really getting things rolling for him. And then, I didn't see it in game 2, but like we've talked about, this is a really deep club, and Trey Bridges and Riley Maddox each with a homer as they move to 29-3 on the season now.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like every other day we're seeing a clip of Riley Maddox with another home run. It's kind of been impressive all season. Looking in that next bunch of teams, you got Malvern Prep, who just continues to fly up the rankings. And within that group, you got Texas very well represented outside of Lake Travis, who's in the top 10. You got Reagan up to 14, Rockwall Heath up to 18, and then Friendswood, who's up to 25. Colt, they still haven't lost yet.
Yeah, it's a roster of Isaac Pacheco, a guy that we've both got to see a ton, and obviously an uber talented left-handed bat there, maybe one of the top draft guys in the state of Texas. But as a team, just really cruising at this point, kind of rolling through the regular season with a couple games left here as they look to keep that thing going for them into the playoffs. And then, moving on, we've got Jay Sarah getting back in the win column this week. A couple big wins. I think that's 4 in a row there for them now. Gage Jump looking really good in his start. And they're getting ready with a big matchup against Huntington Beach this week.
Yeah, that should be a really good matchup. Huntington Beach is a young team, but they got a lot of very talented sophomores, a lot of talented sophomores and juniors on that club, and Jay Sarah with their experience, and then Huntington Beach with their youth. That should be a fun little matchup of what's to come in California, kind of taking over that SoCal area.
So moving on down the rankings, we get to an Auburn club that kind of been rolling all season. Hit a little bit of bump in the road last week. But look to bounce back this week against a newly ranked Central Phoenix team who jumps into the rankings this week at number 38, and what'll be a huge 7A matchup here in the state of Alabama. Two teams jockeying for a playoff spot there as things come down to the end, and kind of some key players to keep an eye on for in this one. You've got Central Phoenix, Chris Cannon on the bump, and then Cole Kehoe and Caleb Johnson up the middle, kind of really kind of anchor them defensively and at the plate. And for Auburn, Will Turner, South Alabama commit, really had it rolling all season there for Auburn out of the leadoff spot, as well as Ryan and Riley Austin. And on the mound, look for Will Fuller, big things out of him for the Auburn Tigers team.
You mentioned Central Phoenix, but they're one of just 4 teams that debuted in the rankings this week. The other teams, you got Trinity out of Kentucky. They beat St. Xavier, who's one of the better teams in the state. Then moving over to California, you got Rancho Bernardo. They're 14-0. And then lastly, you got Orange out of Ohio, who's led by Matthew Wolf. He's committed to Vanderbilt, always talented, always producing. And they just recently beat formerly ranked Walsh Jesuit, so they were undefeated in their early spring. So, Colt, you've got a couple big pitching performances for us from this past week.
Yeah, we'll start in the state of Texas with Raleigh Hector out of Anna High School. The Texas A&M commit turns in 17 innings or 17 Ks in 8 innings, with 2 hits and no runs. Definitely, a guy that we've seen these kind of performances out of on the summer ball circuit. Going to run the fastball into the low 90s, but a guy that's proven to be able to miss barrels with 54 Ks in his 41 innings at PG events. So, obviously an outstanding performance for him, but something that we've definitely seen, kind of within his capabilities so far in his performances at PG. And then Brendan Phillips for Owasso High School there in Oklahoma turns in his 3rd no-hitter of the year. Owasso there at number 37. The Oklahoma State commit, like I said, turned in his 3rd no-hitter for them. And it's, a real pitchability for Phillips. They're going to run the fastball up into the upper 80s, but the curveball and changeup, both really good pitches for him. And no surprise to see the success he's had in that Owasso club in general.
Now, that'll do it for us this week. Be sure to follow along on all of our accounts for the best coverage of the big matchups around the country, and we'll catch you again next week.